Love, it has been good to me this time around. Things were ever bound to change when it was found. Sugar never tasted sweeter on my lips. My heart is now intact and I can find
Well, hello, good evening, and welcome to today's episode of the X-RAD show, the talk show that gets you talking on the Xandermonium Network, live from New York City. I'm Xander Gibb.
And I am the Truth Fairy.
Oh, yes, sirree. On today's show, the hottest of topics, and in part two, singer-songwriter Cody Gill joins us. More to come in a mere moment. Feel free to comment in the live feed around the video, and we will endeavor to include you in the conversation. Oh yes, sirree. And you can tweet us also. All the Twitter information and all the contact information is actually on the X-RAD Facebook show page for today. Welcome back to the show, Thomas. How is the world with you?
Good. Very good. How are you doing, Xander Gibb?
I am doing good, or as well as can be expected. The weather's been kind of weird here today because we had like a cold front, and then it kind of got warm for a couple of hours, and then it went cold again. I really don't think it knows what it wants to do right now, but you know, I think everybody's ready for the summertime, really, don't you?
Yeah, I think for the most part, people seem to enjoy summer. I used to a whole lot, but it's become less important to me as I get older. But yeah, there was a time when, yeah, summer was the whole shebang.
Yeah, I don't know. Summer still is the whole shebang to me, because I think when you live on the West Coast, and you get kind of like, you know, nuclear winters, it's a little much to deal with. But I don't know. I don't know if I'll endure one more winter here before either escaping to Florida or over to the West Coast, because it just feels, it just feels like it's not fun, you know?
Yeah, cold kind of sucks, but, you know, too hot kind of sucks, too. You got to find a happy medium. That's why so many people come here to California, really because of the weather. You know, everyone thinks that they come here because, you know, Hollywood, movie stars, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, it's about the weather. It
Right.
always has been. It's the weather. It seldomly rains. It's moderate to mild most of the time. And the summers get hot, but, you know, not like muggy, wet hot like in Hawaii or Texas or
Right.
Louisiana. You know, it's kind of a dry hot, which is way easier to tolerate than those wet hots.
Yeah, I think that the dry hot would do my because I suffer with allergies and breathing stuff, and when it's wet
Really?
hot, yeah, it's really kind of not good when it's like a moist heat. But
You know what's good for allergies
What?
is you have to find honey that was made by bees who live in your neighborhood. And if the bees live in your neighborhood, they go to get the ingredients for their honey from things that are good for your allergies.
really, I didn't know
You
that.
can get some honey like at a farmer's market or something. I think you guys probably have those there like we do. If you
Yeah.
get some honey that's grown by bees who are your neighbor, it really, really helps.
Yeah, I read something the other day about something else I was researching, and it was the name of the honey began with M, like was it Mercator honey or something? I can't quite remember. But honey is very good for you for lots of different things. But one thing that I've been taking a lot of, well, I say a lot of, I've been taking it like and then having a week or two off is echinacea, and I've been taking that.
Yeah, that's a good one. Echinacea, yeah, it's preventative. It works.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, I've been taking it for over 6 months, and I haven't had a cold for that whole period of time. And I'm convinced that, you know, people think that a lot of it is about positive thinking, but I think that might have something to do with it. But I definitely think the echinacea is, a big part of it.
It's a combination of both. You
Yeah.
know, we've discussed my cold cure before, haven't we? Haven't we done that here on the show?
Possibly.
As soon as you feel the onset of symptoms, you take 3,000 milligrams. I know that sounds high, but you have to take, and it only works with this number, 3,000 milligrams of C and 325 milligrams of regular aspirin, not Advil, not Tylenol, but like old-fashioned aspirin,
Right.
which is probably the most underrated drug. You know, if it was made today, you would need a prescription to fill it, but
Yeah.
because it's so old, you don't. And aspirin and vitamin C, 9 out of 10 times, if you take that when you feel the onset of symptoms and then go to bed, you wake up not sick. And if you do end up getting sick, it cuts the cold time in half by 50%. And I swear by that, it works so well. 3,000 C and 325 regular aspirin.
Right. So make sure you write that down. I think that a lot of people have their own little like remedies and stuff and stuff they do for the flu, and for most people it works because I think you actually, you know, you've lived in your body all your life, so you kind of get to know it. Most of us have like similar makeup, and so I think that being the case, that a lot of these things are passed on from the perspective of, you know, being able to like a lot of these older remedies, they should start using them again, because I think people would get a lot less sick, don't you?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I always tell people when they go doctor shopping, get an older doctor that's old school. You don't want one of these young ones that wants to try all these new, latest and greatest things, because they haven't done the studies, the long-term effects on them. They don't know if this pill is going to make you grow a nail in 40 years or whatever.
Yes.
But the older doctors tend to use the older medicines. And, you know, speaking of the echinacea, you know, another one that's really good, it's called Aciliocoscinum, and it's sublingual, and you just pour that under your tongue, and it's kind of around the same core concept of echinacea, but that's another one.
Right.
Aciliocoscinum. It's OSCILLOCOCCINUM, and it's sublingual, and you just pour the little pellets under your tongue, and that's another preventative one that works really good.
Yeah, I definitely think a lot of these natural remedies and preventative things are really the rage. I mean, my sister told me for years to take echinacea, and I just like poo-pooed it. I was like, no, you know, I know better, blah, blah, blah. But clearly I didn't. And, you know, when I went to see a nutritionist, a lot of the things that my sister had been saying for so long, I hope she's not listening, because, you know, she'll be polishing her medals right now and thinking she's right about absolutely everything, not just this. But she definitely was right about this. She was... she was totally spot on. And I think even when you just change a few things about your life and your diet, the level of difference that it makes is phenomenal, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Western medicine. I like Ayurvedic medicine and various hybrids of that. And
Right.
I found that works way better for me. There's this really good product out there. It's literally the wonder drug. It actually made a hernia go away on me, and that doesn't happen.
Wow.
And it's a recipe that was invented by President Kennedy's doctors, and it's sold under the name fluorescence, and it's a liquid, and you just mix it with equal parts of water and drink it, and it's a gentle body detox, but it works for everything. You know, if you have rosacea or a cold, or in my case, when I first discovered it, I was like pre-hernia, and I took that, and about 3 months later, it just went away. And like hernias don't go away; you have to have surgery.
Yes.
But this stuff is it's like magic. It's like a potion, but it's called fluorescence. Fluorescence Gentle Body Detox.
Wow, I'll have to check that out. I really will. I just want to say a quick hello to our early birds. Hi to Joan. Hi to Gina. Hi to Zell. Hi to Dave. Welcome. And welcome to everyone else that's listening but not in the chat. Feel free to come and comment in the live feed. We don't bite. You don't have to disagree. But you are welcome to come and join us. Now, I was a little sad today to hear basically what had gone on over in France, because I was really kind of thinking the world was beginning to change, and that things were really beginning to come into the road, and people were starting to turn against the globalist BS that's been tearing our planet apart for so long. And ripping up France's political map, French voters elected the independent centrist Emmanuel Macron as the country's youngest president on Sunday, delivering a resounding victory to the unabashedly pro-European former investment banker and dashing the populist dream of far-right rival Marine Le Pen. Macron, who had never run for office before, celebrated with thousands of jubilant flag-waving supporters outside the Louvre Museum in Paris on Sunday. The European anthem Ode to Joy played as he strode out to address the swelling crowd, although I think it should have been the death march. France has won, he said. Everyone said it was impossible, but they do not know France. Marine Le Pen, his far-right opponent in the runoff, quickly called the 39-year-old Macron to concede after voters rejected her French first nationalism by a large margin. Now, Le Pen's performance punctured her hopes that the populist wave that swept with Donald Trump on the White House led to Britain leaving the EU with a Brexit vote would also carry her to France's presidential Elysee palace. So what do you make of this, Thomas? And maybe Europeans are not as enlightened as maybe we first thought.
Well, most of the coverage of the French election that I saw was it was such a linear perspective from the journalists. First off, Macron is not a centrist, and second of all, Marine Le Pen is not far right. She's more of a centrist than he is. What's wrong with France wanting to be French?
Right.
And I really was shocked that so many people bought into his nonsense. He's on record as saying that because France has been so Islamophobic, we deserve every terrorist attack we get. What? Come on, give me a break. And he's 39 years old. He's this groomed little puppet from the banks and from the establishment over there. But the silver lining is, Marine Le Pen has ran for president before. And the first time she ran, she got a very low percentage of the vote. And then the second time, she got more than that. And this time, she got even more than that. And so, movements take time. And so for the next 5 years, because they changed their laws, it used to be 6 years president, and now it's 5 years. Anyways, now we're going to watch France go down the crapper for the next 5 years and have more terrorist attacks and more prayer rugs on the Champs-Elysees three times a day. The tourists have to step over, and more people like Brigitte Bardot going to jail for hate speech when all she says is something to the extent of France is for the French. As we see more and more of that, the French people next go around may have another say in this, and we can see President Le Pen. And, she's only 48 years old. She's not going anywhere, and it just made her stronger, and it's very different. You can't unring a bell.
No.
You can't put a genie back in the bottle.
No.
And so the Le Pen movement, this populist, nationalist movement, which, is not racist, it's not isolationist, it's not bigoted. What the heck is wrong with France wanting to be French? And when you've got people like Karl Lagerfeld saying Paris is no longer Paris anymore, and you see French national heroine and icon Brigitte Bardot put in jail, give me a break. Something's going on. It's not right.
No.
And, my hope and prayer is that eventually France will figure this out and do something about it, and they're going to find out really quickly that President Macron is not a centrist. He's this groomed little French Obama who's never held office and rose up. When you look at his...
So he's a community leader.
Power and Obama's side by side, it's the same thing. They just came out of nowhere and were elevated, and then boom, they're president.
Created,
And
almost.
the French people are going to suffer. That's too bad. But, it'll wake up a lot of people in France.
I think you're absolutely right. This was clear that Macron is this little puppet guy that was created just like Obama was, from humble beginnings as a community organizer with a legal background. But this Macron guy has his wife is 25 years older. She's a TILF. Do you know what a TILF is?
Yeah, and it's not just that she's 25 years older. She was his teacher
Yes.
when he was 15, and she
Yeah.
raped him, and
Yes.
now they're married.
Yeah.
I mean,
What does...
that's just not a good indicator.
No. What does that say? It's like, I wrote on Facebook today that, France now has a president who loves TILFs, and people are saying, what is a TILF? So look up MILF and exchange the M for T for teacher. But isn't that a concern that, like in this country, we would put someone in prison for, a 40-year-old teacher having sex with a 15-year-old child, but there they get to marry their victim and eventually become the first lady of France. But I want to go back a little to something that you were saying, Thomas, with regards to this ideology that if you're a nationalist, which I'm not even sure I like that terminology, but if you're a patriot, if you're like, Britain first or America first, or, want to preserve traditions and ideologies that have kept your country growing, I really object to the ideology that makes you racist, because none of those, I am all of those things, but none of those things, as far as I'm concerned, makes me a racist. And the inference that is the case is of real concern, because this is a growing ideology, and it's not just here in the United States. It's actually happening in the UK and in Europe too. And I thought Europe were a little bit more enlightened. I mean, how many more of these incidents do they need to have in Europe before they see that there's a problem?
I don't know. That's a good question, because they're going to have more, because they were just emboldened because now France is Islamic. And, ironically, even though Mr. Macron won the election, they still have a woman president. Her name is Angela Merkel. And so he's going to let in more of those Syrian gypsies, and they're going to have more jihad problems and the no-go zones in Paris, where the French law is not the law in these little no-go zones. Sharia law is the law there, and the police are afraid to go there, and the police can't go there because the refugees burn it down and throw rocks, and there's no French law in actual quarters and places in Paris. I mean, that's a big problem. And to him, he doesn't see it as a problem. But even like they're parliamentary, right? Yeah, I think they are. Anyways, last week I was reading that they passed a law to mandate that the body mass index on fashion models meet a certain criteria, or they can't go on the runways in Paris.
Seriously?
So their government there cares more about anorexia than it does about jihad.
Wow.
Something's wrong with that. Give me a break. Anorexia is no walk in the park, but, jihad is a heck of a lot more important. important than anorexia.
Right. Well, as someone who is half anorexic, of course I binge eat, but I forget to throw up. Ha ha. If you have a problem with that joke, you can send your comments to Xander Gibb at idon'tgiveacrap.com. Yeah, I'm Xanorexic. That's funny. That's very funny. But I definitely think it is a worry, and we're supposed to be browbeaten and pushed back by the accusation that being patriotic is somehow racist. But I'll take that if it means that our values and our principles live and carry on, for our next generation. Because right now they're being pulled apart and destroyed, and that's of concern to me as a patriotic American. And it should be for every patriotic American. Does that mean that I hate Muslims? Hell no. I've dated enough of them. Does that mean I hate foreigners? Absolutely not. I come from foreigners, as most people do. America is built on immigration. So there's built on legal immigration. So there's none of that. But I really am going to resent these implications, aren't you?
Oh yeah, and it's got the elites of the world scared. That guy that played Tony Blair in that movie The Queen? Like, he left Hollywood and retired from acting to go to Europe to fight the populist, racist movement. I mean, they're scared, but again, you can't unring a bell and you can't put a genie back in the bottle. So it's just going to embolden the right side, and the right side, which is correct, will become more strong, and they learn some lessons, and next go around, things may turn out a little differently.
Absolutely. Let's take it. It took more than one attempt, with America. It's taken till 2016 for them to see that all of this BS, is taking us in a wrong direction. So maybe they do need another, go around the loof, as it were, in order to be able to do that.
More French citizens are going to realize, hey, I don't like it that these snotty people in Brussels are making all the laws that I have to live by, and they don't.
Exactly.
More people are going to find that out. And they're going to find that with this new president. And he's going to take his marching orders from Brussels, being the EU, and from Merkel. And again, France is going to go down the crapper.
Absolutely.
And the French people eventually will figure out, hey, wait a minute, we like being French. French are known for liking being French.
Yes.
And more and more of them are going to wake up and see that as they have to follow these laws that were not even written by people in France.
Exactly.
Laws are being written out of, or not even laws, these are like dictates.
Yes.
Coming out of the EU and Brussels.
Welcome to Stalag.
MOs don't even have to follow them. The French people do.
Right.
And they have no say in it. I mean, that's screwed. That's messed up. That's why Brexit happened.
It's interesting.
It's going to take a while. Movements take a long time. The Reagan Revolution took 11 years. That old joke about Goldwater won, it just took 11 years to count the votes. There's a lot of truth in that saying. So,
exactly.
I've got faith. France is a good place, and they'll find either the same Joan of Arc or they'll find a new Joan of Arc.
Yes.
Marine Le Pen has a daughter who's an MP, and her name, I think, is Marianne Le Pen, I think.
Right.
And so her daughter, she can, pick up that torch. But again, Marine Le Pen's only 48 years old, so next go around, she'll be in her early 50s, and she can do it again. She'll have more support next time because the lay of the land will be much different, and it'll be worse.
It will.
That's what's going on over there in France.
Absolutely. I have one thing to say to Macron before we move on to another topic. And it's not congratulations, it's encule-moi. So, moving swiftly on. Do you speak French, Thomas?
Oh, I have. I speak fashion magazine French.
Good. Okay.
That's the extent of it.
Yes.
I can muddle my way through it a little bit. I watched some of Le Pen's rallies in French, and I got the gist of it.
Right.
Because the verbs are, all the Romance languages, the verbs are pretty much the same, with a twist. Spanish, Italian, Italian, French,
Yeah.
Latin. You know, the verbs are all very similar. The irregular verbs aren't, but the regular
Oh,
verbs are
don't get me started. I can't have this where an inanimate object is either male or female, so I mess it up all the time, which you would expect from a gay man. So I want to move on to our next topic, because former Attorney General Sally Yates and the former National Director of Intelligence James Clapper, clap on, clap off, were interviewed by the Senate Judiciary Subcommittee on Crime and Terrorism today regarding Russia's alleged interference in the 2016 election. The subcommittee's chairman, Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, said in his opening statement, I can't take anything that man says seriously, sorry. When one party is attacked, all of us should feel attacked. When a foreign power interferes with our election, it doesn't matter who they targeted. When you steal my makeup and my boyfriend won't replace it, I get upset. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. We're all in the same boat, Graham added, that he is confident that it was the Russians and not some 400-pound guy sitting on his bed who hacked the DNC and Clinton's campaign chairman, John Podesta, during the election. Now, who weighed that alleged 400-pound man? And who says it wasn't a futon that was reinforced by cinder blocks? Now, Graham said he wants to learn more about the unmasking. I'm just thinking of Zorro now, of U.S. citizens like former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, who may have been caught up incidentally in surveillance of monitored non-U.S. persons believed to be foreign agents, or if she was aware of any evidence that anyone in the Trump campaign colluded with the Russians, that includes drinking Russian vodka, of course, during the election. Now, Yates replied that she could not answer the questions because it would require her to reveal classified information. Time to put up or shut up regarding Russia. Now, aren't you sick to death of all this about Russia?
Yes, and, you know, today was pretty much a circus, and if you look at it from a common sense point of view and just ask some simple questions, you know, you're validated. You know, there's only one factual and criminal activity that has been identified, and that was when Mike Flynn's name was unmasked and then leaked to the media. That's it. That's the only factual and criminal activity. Everything else is political. And the FBI director has said to Congress that the FBI is investigating intelligence leaks. So I found it really interesting when Sally Yates was on the stand and what's that senator from, is he from Georgia or Texas? Senator Grassley. He asked, have any of you been questioned by the FBI about any leaks? And Clapper said no, and Yates said no. So wait a minute. I mean, how can the FBI director testify to Congress that the FBI has an open investigation into who is the source that leaked Flynn's name, which is, again, the only criminal and factual activity. Everything else is political, and yet the primary person who controlled information was, at that time, Sally Yates.
Yes.
So how could she say that she was never asked about the leaks if that's the only thing that's been established? Come on.
You see,
I mean, it's political theater. It's a joke.
It is. I have a theory that, you know, part of the problem is that these are Obama drags, you know, Flynn and Sally Yates, and clearly part of their remit is to do and say everything they possibly can to make things difficult for the Donald. But we're not going to stand for that because, you see, the thing is, you can only talk about presumed wrongdoing for so long without it having to be shut down, because, you know, I can allege, you know, every single day, you know, 24/7 that Lindsey Graham's gay and that his boyfriend is ugly. But, you know, until I actually prove that, it's still just that assumption. Wouldn't you agree, Thomas?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, none of them really asked appropriate, or not even appropriate, just like logical, basic questions. It's like the president the other day when he said, what needs to happen is that Sally Yates, under oath, needs to be asked if she knows how classified information got into the newspapers after she explained it to the White House counsel.
Right.
Why didn't they ask her that? And then when Senator Grassley today asked if she'd been asked or had been briefed about who leaked, she said no. So what's going on?
But it's very.
What's going on?
But it's very.
It's like a Chinese fire drill.
Yeah, it's very kind of, it's very apt, when that phrase embed with the media, it's totally apt to Susan Rice. You can't tell me she went home every night and talked about the weather. I'm telling you, you have a partner, Thomas, you talk about things that you've done during the day. You're not going to say, you wouldn't say, well, I can't tell you because it's, for reasons of national security. Before, she's gone to bed and she's talking sweet nothings, and the husband is saying, so, what happened today? What did you do? What classified information can you share with me? I don't believe that a journalist and a politician can be in a marriage and not discuss these things.
I mean, like I said before, all they need to know is how General Flynn's name got unmasked and who leaked it to the newspapers. That's it.
Right.
That's the only thing that's been done that there's proof of that is illegal. And everything else is political.
Did you watch?
Why isn't that being addressed?
Absolutely. Did you watch Zorro as a child? Because all this unmasking talk makes me want to get out my sword and go,
Right.
and just unmask. I remember when I was a child, we used to go to this thing called the Saturday Matinee, and we would watch Zorro and all these things, from the 50s and 60s. The 60s and 70s, or whatever one it was. And Zorro was part of that. They were always talking about, it's time that we unmask Zorro. And that's all I could think about today with all of that going on. But I am really fed up with that, because it's kind of like saying that Mr. Trump did wrong. Mr. Trump did wrong. Mr. Trump did wrong. So if he did wrong, show us where he did wrong and we'll deal with it. Otherwise, STFU.
Yes. This is a circus, and she answered that way today just so they can prolong this imaginary narrative about Russia. And, they don't understand they lost the election, and nor do they understand why they lost the election. So they're just acting out like children.
Absolutely.
And that's what's going on.
Absolutely. I need to start the introductions for our guest tonight, because we're going to play his song before he comes on. So Cody Gill is a singer-songwriter from Los Angeles with a velvet voice as a musical penchant that frankly makes me want to ask, is a duet possible? Before he joins us, before he calls in, let's take a listen to this lovely song that he's written and sings too, called Midnight, and it goes a little bit like this.
Burning sun in the sky, breathing out to leave things die. Midnight hours passing by. Please don't close your eyes now, baby. Don't you cry.
welcome to the show, the one, the only, the fabulous Mr. Cody Gill.
Yeah, hello, how's it going?
How are you doing? You're live with myself. I'm my co-host, Mr. Thomas S. Schmitz. How is the world with you?
Hey, Cody.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
So we just played your song, Midnight, that I can't stop listening to and I can't stop singing. And I'm trying to work out the harmonies, but it's pretty high anyway. So tell us a bit about the song, what inspired you to write it, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I started writing it probably a few years ago, and it was one of those songs where I didn't really spend that much time on it. Like, that's usually how it goes with like the songs that are usually come out the most meaningful and like
Right.
the most emotional, I guess, are the ones that you just kind of sit there and write within like 20 minutes. And that's kind of how that one happened. I was just sitting on the couch with an acoustic guitar, and then I kind of came up with the whole structure and the vocal melody, and then I just wrote the lyrics later after that.
Right, because you're totally the opposite to me. Because as a songwriter, I get the lyrics in my head and then I kind of work out the music. But you get the music first, don't you?
Oh yeah, always. I mean, lyrics, like I said in the email, I mean, my lyric writing is definitely the weakest of everything, and so I usually put that at the very, very end, and then kind of scramble at the end to try to fit some lyrics in there.
Well, I would, for listening to that song, I definitely wouldn't say lyrics were a struggle, because, I'm going to have to steal it and perform it myself sometime. But honestly, no copyright intended. So tell me, who inspires you musically?
I guess the most, what I would have to say is Radiohead and Pink Floyd, probably, as far as like rock bands and popular music goes.
Right.
And I really love, as far as you can see from my style, is classical music and the old greats like
Right.
Beethoven and Bach and Gustav Mahler and people like that.
Right. Have you ever taken a classical song and written anything kind of to it? Because I took Greensleeves once and wrote like a modern ballad to it, which was off the wall and very interesting. But I just wonder if other musicians tend to do that too.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like my favorite Beethoven symphony is the Pastoral, it is number 6.
Right.
I've taken that, kind of made it into like a rock version with like rock drums and stuff.
Wow.
I haven't really figured out exactly how I want to do it, but I've got nothing around it.
Right. Absolutely. So if somebody so the few people are saying in the live feed that they really like the song. Is there somewhere that they could buy that song?
Oh yeah, just on iTunes. If you just go search on iTunes and type in Dale and Midnight, it's be there in the studio version and the live version from the Cottage.
Right. Yeah, I prefer the Cottage version myself, but that's just my personal perspective. Now you, excuse me, you grew up in quite a showbiz family. Your mom is an actress, and your dad is in stunts, and your sister is an actress too. So Cody's mom is the actress Morgan Brittany, who most famously was in Dallas, and your dad has like done the stunts for like. I can't, there are so many, I can't name them. And your sister is a pretty well-known actress too. So did you feel a pressure to kind of be creative, or was it were you just left to kind of find your own creativity?
Yeah, that is actually the whole reason of why I got into music, was because I wasn't left to do my own thing. My dad pretty much bred me to follow in his footsteps and become, another stunt man and carry on the Gill name. And
Right.
I was put into stunts at 5 years old, and I was pretty much working consistently up until about 18 or 21, and then around that time, I just realized I wasn't happy, and I didn't want to do that for a living, and
Right.
I really wanted to do other things, and me and my father were just not really getting along at that point, and so I completely broke away and quit the stunt business and kind of taught myself music, and then, here I am now.
Right. Absolutely. So you a self-taught musician?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I can't claim I was taught to play the guitar, and I've never had a piano lesson in my life, and the rest of it kind of came together for me because I think some people are either naturally musical or kind of like book smart musical. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, well, there's definitely tone deaf people that can't carry a tune in the bucket. But,
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely thought when I first got into music, I loved it so much, but it was so unfamiliar, and I had never done anything musically related at all.
Right.
And so I started thinking that I didn't have any rhythm. I was like, oh, there's no way I don't have any natural ability to play rhythm. And so I started with percussion and drums and kind of got my rhythm first, and then after I got my rhythm, I worked on melody and harmony.
Right. So do you feel, because, I'm a bit of a jack of all trades with, musically, I sing, I write, I play guitar, I play piano, I can even, strut something out on the mandolin. But do you feel that there's like one particular thing that you are more than the others? Like I would say, hey, I'm a singer really. What would you say you are?
Piano player.
Right. Wow,
Yeah,
that's
I'd
interesting.
say, yeah, that comes the easiest for me, or it's the most natural feeling. Because guitar, I mean, I could play guitar, but I don't consider myself very good. I just kind of play to change it up and have a different outlet for writing. But piano it comes so much more comfortably for me.
Right. So I hate to do this, but I want to ask you a little bit about what it was like growing up with a famous mom, because I'm very lucky to be friends with your mom. But I grew up watching her on TV on a TV show called Dallas, and she was my favorite character. So obviously, when I was older and I kind of we became friends. That was really zany for me. But what was it like growing up with a mom that was on TV?
So that was definitely a different experience when you're, a little kid and everybody is just in awe of your mom and they're telling you how amazing she is and
Right.
how beautiful she is. And it was definitely a lot of pressure and a lot of, how am I ever going to live up to these two amazing people? And my mom is just like, she's the nicest person in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of pressure and lots of, things to screw up my own life, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've hung out with your mom a couple of times. I've had dinner with her a couple of times. She sat next to me at this event I was at the Reagan Library. I think it was Rush Limbaugh or something, and she was a hoot. She was telling me all these stories about Lucille Ball and Rosalind Russell, because she was in Gypsy. She played Baby June, and she was telling me like what it was like to work with Rosalind Russell and stuff. But yeah, I've hung out with her a couple times. She's great.
Absolutely, but you know that because she's your mom. What I found most interesting, and we will start talking about your mom in a second, I promise you, was the first time I interviewed her on the show. I was really nervous because she's like this big star I've really liked for years, and it was like speaking to a friend. She just was that down to earth. So we'll stop talking about your mom now, and we'll concentrate on your music. So are you doing an album right now?
That's the thing I'm trying to figure out. Like, I just released my 2 live albums. I released the first one the end of last year, and then the second one the beginning of this year.
Right.
And the 2 live albums are just kind of like 2 compilations of, they're about 8 songs each, so it's like 16 songs or something, and they're pretty eclectic. Like, the first album is like my more classical, pieces that are more like in the, movie score kind of vein. And
Right.
the other one, From the Cottage, is, my poppier stuff with acoustic guitar. And so, as far as like a debut album, I don't really know what I'm going to be releasing. I'm trying to work on the symphony that I've got going right now. And I'd like
Oh, wow.
to do that. Yeah, it's like I want to do a 4-part symphony that you could either play as a 30-minute or 20-minute long piece, or you could break it up into 4 songs or 5 songs.
Right. And I guess it must be difficult for someone like you, because like I've heard of, obviously through your mom, I've heard a lot of your stuff, and it was like mostly acoustic before, and I kept saying, when is he going to do something with where he sings? When is he going to do something where he sings? And then when I heard Midnight, I was like, wow, you're really hiding your light under a bushel. But it must be difficult for you when your heart is in the classical. And I know that the stuff that I write is like mostly ballads. But most people want, like the bubblegum pop kind of stuff, the more modern. So how do you marry those two together?
Yeah, that's the question. I mean, I'm trying to figure out a good way, but it's like, I have a few songs that seem like they blend pretty well, but yeah, those styles are so different, and like the classical world is really in its own. It's kind of like an alien of the musical world. They're
right.
Up in their own little tier and stuff, and I'm trying to get them stick out of their ass in a way, because
right.
music isn't very forgiving, and they don't really accept new ideas and things like that, and so I would really like to blend the old classical ways with the new style, but it's pretty tough.
Right. Did you ever see that British group? They came out of one of those kind of competition shows. They were called El Divo or Il Divo. They sang classical with like a pop edge, and that kind of seemed to work. But they weren't around very long,
Did they do original classical pieces, or was it like old stuff from the old days?
I think they did a mixture. I think for the competition and stuff for the TV show, they did things like Ness and Dorma, but speeded it up and added a beat to it and stuff. But they did some of their own original stuff, because I know exactly where you're coming from, because when I write, like 80% of what I write comes out country, but I'm not a country singer. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's difficult to be true to your creative persuasions, but also be commercial too.
No, I know, yeah. And especially when you're creating something on your own, it's like, painter on a canvas. It's like you're putting your heart and soul on the paper,
right.
Through music, and it's like having other people judge it and be like,
yeah,
like that, or it's not really my style. It's like, well, it's just like a weird feeling. It's like, working towards something to get it, like, appreciated. It's just like it's a weird feeling,
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I like to shock people with my talent, because I'm a big guy. I'm quite chunky, and they see me waddling up to the stage, and they're like, "Go on, that, impress us." And then I open my mouth, and they're like, "Oh my God, wow!" Which I love getting that reaction. Now, do you find you get that high, that buzz from performing live in general?
Yeah, definitely now. I mean, at first I was so scared that I started a tribute band with my cousin, and I didn't want to, I don't really have a problem singing in front of people, but talking to the audience and like getting on stage and being the front man is pretty difficult for me, because I don't really like people and social situations are weird for me, but
right.
After I did it a few times, it's just like breathing now. It's pretty easy, and I get that high every time I get up there and start a set.
Yeah, it certainly does get easier the more you do it, doesn't it? Now, I know Thomas has a question for you, because he just asked it in the live feed, but I'm going to ask you just in case he's like afraid to, but he's asking, how old are you?
I'm 29. I actually just turned 29 last week.
Hey, I got a question. In your tribute band, what band did you guys pay tribute to?
We're two bands. We combine Radiohead and Muse.
Ah.
Very.
Musehead.
Musehead. That's interesting. So do you prefer performing other people's stuff, or do you prefer your own? Because I don't mind either way, really.
No, yeah, it's really fun and really good to keep sharp with like playing really difficult music like that, and like Muse, his singing style is insane. It's like operatic and crazy belting and really high falsetto and tons of breathing, like very little breathing breaks. And so it's really good to play those songs and keep sharp and everything. But yeah, I love playing other people's music. It's so fun. So
I want to ask you about your falsetto, because like the high bit, I can get it. But was that hard for you, or do you find falsetto? I don't mean Bee Gees like falsetto, but do you find falsetto pretty easy?
Yeah, that's actually the thing that people have asked me a lot. They're like, how do you go that high? And I've actually never had a problem with going really high falsetto. Like, that's come really naturally for me. But the belting high notes and singing from your chest, that took a lot of practice and a lot of working my voice up to get that where you don't crack and you actually have the strength. But
right.
Falsetto, yeah, for some reason my head voice just came pretty easy.
Yeah, it's practice, isn't it? Really, I think. So what's? Go ahead. Oh, sorry, I thought you were going to say something. So what's next for you? Are you going to be performing live anywhere? Can people in LA come and see you, or do we all have to pile around to your mom's cottage to listen?
Like, nobody really, everything moves so fast out here, and nobody really appreciates things. So it's like, even when you do play live, nobody really comes out to see you, and if they do come out to see you, it's not really that great of an experience. They just kind of stand there and watch. It's not really that great. So
really,
yeah, I'm trying to turn it off from live performing at the moment until I get like a really big show.
Right.
But I want to start doing live podcasts and stuff, and now that I'm working on this symphony, I'd really like to get finished within the next few months. I want to, do a big show debuting the symphony and debuting the video and all that. So
absolutely. Absolutely, sounds like a plan. If you need any advice with regards to Facebook Live, because we've got it down to a fine art now. It's just that it makes me look like I'm over 40, but I'm actually like 25 and really thin. But I'm sure we can give you some help with that. So you said your song is on iTunes. Is there any other work out there of yours that people can buy?
Yeah. I mean, Veil is, a pretty widespread name, unfortunately. But if you type in Veil and Midnight, it'll take you to my, whatever page on iTunes.
Right.
You'll see other songs by me, and you'll be able to find out that it's actually me. But there's like a couple other Veils on there with their albums and stuff. But I mean, you'll be able to recognize me from the Midnight song and other songs, and other singles and stuff. And I have Veil live from the Den and Veil live from the Cottage, and those are two of my live albums.
Right. But Veil is a bit more than just music, because when I was putting stuff together, finding stuff about you for the show, you do visual stuff as well, don't you?
Yeah, I've done music videos and stuff for my singles, and that's actually part of the symphony that I'm writing was kind of conceived after like a vision that I had of like this grand. It's like a masquerade kind of party thing that involves a lot of water, so I'm calling it the Aqueous Symphony. And
wow.
I'm going to base the whole symphony around this video and make it like a short film kind of deal. So, that's something I'm really into, is making elaborate music videos and making that just as important as my music.
Absolutely. Well, I hope you get a gig in New York sometime, because it would be great to meet you and come and see you perform. But we really have to do a duet together, because I think our falsetto together would be magical.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. So listen, thank you so much for joining us today, Cody. We'll find the link to so people can buy your song. But for now, thank you so much for calling us today, and give our best to your mom.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot, Cody. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night, Cody.
Bye.
That was Cody Gill from Veil. Make sure you check him out on iTunes, and the song is called Midnight. Make sure you go and take a look at all that he's doing. I actually enjoyed that. I like a little bit of a break from political guests, which that song was just, I was blown away. What did you think, Thomas?
Totally. It is good to have some culture in there besides politics. Absolutely. Anytime.
Absolutely. So we are at the end. Nearly had a heart attack. I thought the phone had gone off and it wasn't. And I thought, what the hell is happening? Am I asleep? And the alarm clock is going off? There you go. That was my little heart attack for the day. It just shows you my ticker is very strong. We are at the end of our time together. Thanks to everyone who's made today's show possible. Thanks to Cody Gill for being our guest. And thank you to the wonderful Thomas S. Schmitz for being my co-host. Tell people where they can find out more about you, Thomas.
I am easy to find on Twitter. It's at Thomas S. Schmitz, at ThomasSchmitz, at Thomas S. Schmitz. And I can be found as an editor and contributor at www.conservatives4palin.com. That's the number 4, conservatives4palin.com. And Twitter at Thomas S. Schmitz.
Absolutely. Let me ask you one more question before you go. Obviously we want another term from the Donald if we can have that. But do you think that we might see a President Palin one day?
The door's open. You never know. She doesn't close doors, and when a door is poked open just a little bit, she's been known to plow right through that. So
yes.
Maybe we could.
Go for it, Governor Palin. Thank you so much for joining me tonight, joining us tonight, even Thomas. Thomas will be back with us on Friday with our new Friday co-host for a while, Ty Paul Egar. You have a fabulous week, Thomas, and I will speak to you very soon.
Okie dokie.
Thanks
Have
a lot,
good
sir.
night, Xander.
Take
Good
care.
talking to you.
You too.
Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, that is it for tonight's show. On tomorrow's show, my co-host is Margaret A. Cheveria. Make sure you stay safe out there. Now, a couple of people have been suggesting I should start doing live singing on this show, but maybe we will try it and see how the Facebook acoustics work. Yeah, you're late, Sam. I know you've been having interviews. You can tell us a little bit more about that on tomorrow's show. But for now, stay safe out there, stay warm, and we will see you same time, same place tomorrow. I love you all. I do. Bye.
Life, it has been good to me this time around. Things were they were bound to change when it was found. Sugar